In this video, we will be discussing perfectly competitive markets in the short run and how they profit maximize when they have an unknown price. Here we have a problem that gives us the number of firms in the market is 2,000. They also give us a total cost function of 150 minus 45q plus 3q squared, as well as a quantity demanded function of 20,000 minus 300p. And they ask us, what is the price of the good in the market? How much of each good will the firm supply? What is the market supply? What is the profit? What is the producer's surplus? And what is the learner's index? So we're assuming we're profit maximizing here. So in order to find the price and quantity supplied by each firm, we would use the relationship for profit maximization in perfectly competitive markets of price equals marginal cost. Even though we don't know our price, we could still set it equal to our marginal cost. And we can find our marginal cost by taking the derivative of our total cost function with respect to Q. And that will ultimately give us negative 45 plus 6Q. And by using the relationship of price equals marginal cost, we can set our marginal cost of negative 45 plus 6Q equal to price. And now we have a price function. Now if we were to solve for Q by adding 45 to both sides, and that gives us 6Q equals P plus 45. And then if we divide both sides by 6, we are left with Q equals 1/6 P plus 15 over 2. And now we have a quantity function, and this quantity function is actually our quantity supplied function for each firm. So depending on the price, each firm will supply so much. However, we can't do too much with the supply function. So what we want to do is we want to find our market supply, denoted by big Q, which is little q supply times the number of firms in the market. So it would be 2,000 times the quantity of 1/6 P plus 15 over 2. And by distributing that 2,000, we get a quantity supplied function of 333.33 times P plus 15,000. And so we have our quantity supplied function, and we were given a quantity demanded function in the beginning of this problem. And in profit maximization, we're at equilibrium, so we can assume that quantity demanded equals quantity supplied. So we can set them equal to each other to find our price. So quantity demanded was 20,000 minus 300p, and that is equal to 333.33 times price plus 15,000. And so what we can do is we can subtract 15,000 from both sides, as well as add 300p to both sides. And what we're left with is 5,000 equals 633.33 times price. And if we were to divide both sides by 633.33, we are left with a price of $7.89. So now that we have our price, we can find the quantity supplied for each firm, and we would do that by plugging price into the little q function. So quantity supplied of each firm, we would plug our price into that. So we would have 1/6 times 7.89 plus 15/2. And by plugging this into a calculator, we get a quantity supplied of 8.82. So each firm supplies 8.82 units of a good. And so we can also find the market supply by using the formula we had earlier of big Q supply equals little q supply times the number of firms. So we have that 8.82 times 2,000. So quantity supplied for the entire market ends up being 17,630. Next, we want to find our profit. We know the profit function is profit, which is denoted by pi, equals price times quantity of each firm minus the total cost function. And since we know all three terms, what we can do is we can have profit equals our price of 7.89 times our quantity of 8.82, and then minus the total cost function of 150 minus 45 times the quantity of 8.82 plus 3 times 8.82 squared. And after plugging that into a calculator, we get a final profit of 83.11. Next up, we can find our producer's surplus, which we denote by PS. The formula that we use for producer's surplus is profit plus fixed cost. And so PS equals our profit of 83.11 plus our fixed cost of 150, which we get from looking at our total cost function and looking at the portion that is not connected to any Q in any way. And so we find our producer's surplus to be 233.11. Last but not least, we can find our learner's index, which is denoted by LI, and the formula we use for that is price minus the marginal cost over the price. And so if we plug in what we know, we have LI equals 7.89 and then minus the marginal cost, which is negative 45 plus 6 times quantity, which we know is 8.82. And that is all over 7.89. And so if we plug that into a calculator, we get a learner's index of negative 0.0038. Now since that learner's index is on a scale from 0 to 1, where the 0 is no market power and 1 is complete market power, and we have a negative number, we can assume we have hit our minimum point of 0, meaning this firm has no market power, meaning that they have no control over the price. So they have to set their price in accordance to consumer demand, or they would lose out on any possible profit they can get. That will conclude this video on perfectly competitive markets in the short run when there is an unknown P.